Self-Transcendence. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. We begin this week with a passage from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 5. Love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. If ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the tax collectors the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even pagans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. This teaching is a continuation of last week's lesson. To love all equally is possible only by seeing God everywhere, in others as well as in oneself. See whatever comes to you unasked, for as a manifestation of His will. Be grateful for the pains you experience, for they are healing strokes of His love. Sometimes healing is effected only by strong measures, but His love for you is manifested in the very attempt to heal. Strive always to be impersonal, as though whatever happens to you were happening to someone else. Persecution gives us the supreme opportunity to deny the thought, this is happening to me, and to affirm our inner freedom from the thought of ego. Don't allow the negative perceptions of others to become your own self-definition. Seek God. This is the true goal of life, though how difficult to cling to in the midst of hatred, spite, and persecution. The Bhagavad Gita tells us in the 7th chapter, out of thousands, one strives for spiritual attainment, and out of many blessed true seekers who strive assiduously to reach me, one, perhaps, perceive me as I am. O truth seeker, be one among all those thousands who seek the supreme goal. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. In Catholic Church, traditionally, the Church, so in the wide sense of the great international congregation, is called the body of God. The body of Christ. And this is an image, in a way, very mystical. It has also its own strength. But the problem is that in a body, everything that needs to collaborate. If in a human body something doesn't work well, then this has an impact on the rest. Let's say the liver doesn't work well, then the rest of the body is influenced somehow. And if this is true, then also this body of Christ shouldn't work very well, because in the Church there are many individuals, several different individuals, and every individual is unique. So it would be better to have an image that counts on the fact that the spiritual search needs to be individually first, and then also in the end the experience of God will always be an individual experience. So Swami Kriyananda in his book, The Path, on the chapter of original Christianism, he suggests to call the church, or all, let's say, human groups that inspire to a spiritual, true source, to call these groups Christ's family, and in the case of the church, the family of Christ. So also at Ananda, also Jesus is one of our masters. We talk about family, Sangha, family, which every person has in a way cannot stop thinking that his own spiritual growth is a personal responsibility. And in a family, there's always one person that makes the difference. Also in our natural, biological family, there's often one person that makes the difference. Let's go. There's a family of wealth, and they have children who go to university and they have success. Or a musician family, for example, the family of Bach, a great composer. They had like 10 children, and 7 or 8 of them became composers, and during their life they were even more famous than their father. The father became famous afterwards. But what happens in the world is not really what makes the difference. The genetic inheritance of a family gets enlightened when one of its members has the courage to enter onto a spiritual path, and independently on what he or she becomes in life. It could be a mother or a housewife, but if inwardly this person realizes ever more to not be this ego but to be something much bigger, then her growth has a silent influence, not an articulated influence, on the whole family. And this is something that the Master says, as if we want to compare. Every year in the musician schools there are thousands who graduate in piano, violin or whatever, but one Mozart is only born maybe once every 200 years. So, to make this more clear, I want to tell you about a book I've read when I was young. For our Dutch friends, maybe you know it, because it's a book of Dutch literature that was published in the 19th century, and I was a young man who was easy to impress, and so this book has always been somehow inside of me. So now I want to share with you a little part of this story. It's probably a book that is not read anymore anywhere, and it talks about a family of the high bourgeoisie in the city of The Hague. And it was the time when the Netherlands were also a colonial strength. They had conquered Indonesia and so on. And in this family, one daughter, I think the oldest, no, maybe not the oldest, but anyway, one daughter makes an error for which she has to pay. And she is given into marriage with a politician, very high politician, unhappy this wedding, and in her arrogance she makes this error because she cheats on the husband and is discovered. So that's a great scandal for the family. She needs to separate and marry the man that she betrayed her husband with, because she remained pregnant. So she needs to separate from her family and move to Bruxelles. Now from Brussels to The Hague it's 2-hour trip, but in those days it was much longer trip. And so she lives there and she gives birth to her child, and this obligated marriage again is a very unhappy marriage. They fight every day, even on small things, and they compete for the love of their only son, who becomes a quite wise young man, too wise for his age. And the whole time that this woman is in Brussels, she feels a deep nostalgia for her family. She wants to move back to The Hague, and she says, I've made one error. Is it possible that I have to pay so much for this one mistake? And so maybe after 10 years, she decides to take all her courage and to go back to the city of The Hague, where she is welcomed by her family. The mother, I think she had already gone to visit her in Brussels, because the mother is always the mother, but the sisters and brothers never go to see her. And she's also a very beautiful woman, very charismatic woman. So now in The Hague she lives all the little jealousies and judgments of her sisters and brothers, not of all but of many. And the greatest fear of that family is that she wants to be presented to court, because in The Hague there's also the palace of the king, and she could do that as a member of that family, because one of the members is minister of the colonies, so she could go and say, I'm your sister-in-law, so you have to present me to the court. So the whole family is very afraid that this might happen, but she doesn't want to do it. It's not her intention to do this. She just wants to feel the warmth of her family, but there is no warmth, there's only jealousy and no nice feelings. So at a certain point she responds to this, because she isn't perfect yet. And then in the second book, because it's like 5 books, in the second book something happens in her life, because a childhood friend of her husband appears, and he's invited to dinner. And this man is a very courageous man. Courageous in the sense how Maria has read before in the description of Swami Kriyananda, the courage to get out and ignore the influence of the family and of the society, and to search for your own path. And also this friend was part of the high society, but he has done every possible job. He worked on a low level, he went by foot through Russia, and Constanze, this woman, she's fascinated by this man, and they have very long dialogues together, and step by step she starts changing, maturing. She starts maturing a growth, and she's changed as a wife, as a mother, as part of the family, but before all she's changed inside. And so all these jealousies of the family, she's not really touched by them anymore because her aura grows. And this is what happens when we grow on the path of self-realization. And the self with a capital letter becomes always more self. Then something inside of us starts communicating with others, and it's not our ego, it's God through us. And so slowly these family members who have always treated her well, not well, see now in her a mirror for their own small being. So she becomes strong, and she doesn't judge the others anymore, and she has the courage to face her life. She does not separate from her husband because that would not have been good for the boy, but she faces her life with courage. So did you like the story? I like it so much, and it has remained within me, and I've always thought about this story. And when I prepared for this Sunday service, I thought I must tell this story also because I think no one will ever read this book. The Bible, yes, the Bhagavad Gita, yes, but this book is destined probably to be forgotten. So the writer from the other world will probably be grateful now to me that I told the story. How can we measure our growth? How can we see if this ego becomes less strong? I think there is a measurement, and I wrote it down. One part is the capacity to accept where you are, also to remaining on the theme of the book. You need to accept that you have chosen to be born in the particular family, and this family has genetic characteristics with brothers and sisters and all the rest. And if you can completely accept, even if your childhood can be dramatic, some people have lived dramatic childhoods, but however your childhood was, when you live in acceptance of your whatever God has given you, then it is easier to accept and to grow into the spiritual teaching. That what does not tell you if you have grown or not is your appearance. So if we talk about biological family, now we talk about spiritual family. So the fact of belonging to a family, to a spiritual family, doesn't really make the difference. You can be part of a church, you can be part of the Ananda Sangha or another spiritual family, but the belonging to this family doesn't really make a difference. Even the position that you occupy in that organization doesn't make necessarily the difference. Even in Holland, there are positions, but that's just for organizational reasons. Who knows where the true saint is in our community? No one knows. I always try to see the saint here within our community. Maybe he or she is hiding somewhere, but it's not necessarily a minister or light bearer, a kriyacharya. It might be someone serving in the kitchen or invisibly somewhere, but this aura is growing and influencing in a harmonizing way this wonderful, great community. So, a person that has made a difference in the work of Yogananda has been, for example, James Jesse Lin. He was a billionaire, and he was a direct disciple of Yogananda. And thanks to him, the organization of Yogananda could create, could give a solid base, solid economic base to the organization. Also at Ananda we are always looking for such a personality which hasn't presented itself yet, which might mean that we need to learn these things in other ways. But for this Saint Lin, he has been known in Yogananda's family not so much because he was rich, but because he sustained the work, or because he sustained the work of Yogananda, but for what he has realized within. There's a picture that has become famous in the autobiography of a yogi, which is called A Westerner in Samadhi. And you can see in the photo this very American Western man. You see him sitting with a naked upper body on the beach, and you see his face blissful, and the master, after just a few years of practice of Kriya Yoga, the master touched him and made him enter into Samadhi, into communion with God. But his training, his formation hadn't finished there. From then, that moment onwards, he knew why he was on the path, to feel this infinite joy. But then life went on, and he went on living as a disciple of his guru. And this relationship, disciple and guru, is never very easy. Otherwise, you would need to become a disciple. So Yogananda had many projects and a very creative spirit. So every time he would come with a new idea, and he would send someone to Saint Lin to realize this new project. And who knew him said that sometimes he would go a little bit like this, oh, another one, I need to give even more money. But then in the end he would always give. So these were little tests for him that he could overcome. Another difficult thing for him, for Saint Lin, was his wife, because they had met the master together, and they had started to study the teachings together. But at a certain point, she, seeing him progressing so fast, was discouraged and became a little jealous of him. And what did the master say about Miss Lin? And we want to honor her as the wife of a great saint. And Master said, Divine Mother knows what she's doing through Miss Lin, and she needs to learn patience. Another small test, and we are talking about a man who has already been in Samadhi, the highest state. Another test for him was he was completely panicking. It means strange, but this is how I read it. He was panicking, but then it passes. But he was panicking because he was quite a special character. For example, his toiletry, his perfumes and so on, they had to be of a very specific brand. So his assistant had to go shopping in the whole United States to find this very particular product. And he was very, very sensitive to smell. Usually it's the women who are very sensitive. I don't even have a sense of smell, because my wife sometimes tells me, don't you smell this? And I say, no, I don't smell anything. But in this case, it was him. He had a very strong sense of smell. So at a certain point, he sits in the expectation to enter the state of Samadhi, but he all of a sudden smells a terrible smell. And he almost starts crying. But patience, he remains seated, he's a yogi, he's meditating, he has a guru, so he remains sitting, and after a long time the smell vanishes, so he can go into samadhi. This is not an easy test. When he leaves the body, shortly after the masters, maybe 2-3 years later, because he had a tumor, a brain tumor, so he has had several operations in the hospital, but Durgama, another direct disciple who was responsible to take care of him, she said, when he finally left the body, never have I seen a person so filled with peace as Saint Lin when he's left the body. This is something that we would all want, isn't it? Another way to overcome the ego is to not let the ego be too important. Don't hate it. Sometimes I hear people talk about the ego as if the ego was a substitute of the original sin. But we on the spiritual path, we want to get free of the original sin. This is a very human concept. It's not a divine concept. We know that we come from bliss, from light. We are children of the light, and we want the original light, not the original sin. And the state of the ego is only a middle state, a temporary state on our pathway to perfection. And we need slowly to learn not to identify always with this ego and to transform it from owner to server. But we need to not to talk too badly about it. Oh, this ego, again this ego. So it paralyzes us if we talk too much about the ego. Even if, let's say at work, you receive a big responsibility, don't be afraid of your ego. Of course there will be ego, but don't give it too much importance. Don't give it too much energy. Give all your energy to what you need to do, to what you need to accomplish, and then God will take care of guiding your ego into the right direction. There's a story about 2 monks in India, and they are walking through a woods, and they arrive to there's a lot of rain and a rain pot, and next to this rain pot there's a beautiful young woman, and she's dressed in a beautiful sari, and she doesn't know how to get over this muddy road. And so the older monk takes this woman into her arms through the muddy street, and she puts her on the other side of the street, and then the monks continue walking, one with a smile and the other one, the younger man, without a smile. And he thinks, how is this possible? He's a monk, we are renunciates, we cannot even look at women, we cannot touch a woman. How can we just walk on as if nothing has happened? So after 4 or 5 hours, he says to his superior monk brother, you know, I want to ask you, but isn't it written in our rules that we cannot interact with women, that we cannot look at them, that we cannot touch them? And so the other monk hadn't been thinking about it, and he says, yes, but yeah, there is a difference between you and me. I have left that woman at the muddy road. You still have that woman inside you. So this is the best way to get rid of the ego, to take the ego with a sense of humorism. If you are trapped, which might happen easily, try to remain calm, also confronting your ego, also with your emotions. I can live many emotions because maybe I'm very attached to something, or maybe I'm very insecure. Whatever the reason may be, it doesn't help if I tell myself, oh, this is the ego, oh no, this ego again, this ego doesn't help me. This attitude doesn't help. We have to try to remain calm, not only when we live in the world, but also when we treat our own emotions and our own attachments. And that's why Master said to a woman, he says to this woman, calmness is the main attribute of the soul. So I think one measurement that you can use to see if you are progressing, small steps on the spiritual path, and spiritual progress is always in small steps. You cannot take big steps, so accept that you have to take one step at a time, and every step will give you a little more joy. But one way to see if you are overcoming the ego is if your inner calmness gets stronger. So the practice of Hong So helps, practicing pranayama helps, and so slowly, without even noticing ourselves, Divine Mother will enter into our heart and fill us drop by drop with calmness, with her calmness, helping us to face our challenges with humorism and with lightness. At last, one way to transcend the ego is also to serve the work of our Guru. And I want to tell you that Europe, in her heart, in her communication, and in everything, and everywhere, people would not only donate, but also offering their fantasy, their ideas. And two friends of ours, Maria and Dominic, who were here last Saturday and gave a speech during Swamiji's Moksha, and they had the idea to wanting to sponsor a musical event in the Church of Rome. So we organized a concert and we created a lottery, and this Mr. Singh, who was the manager of Air India, whom this couple knew, he said, I'm giving for this lottery a flight ticket for Rome and Delhi. And so this was a beautiful event, and we sold a lot of tickets for the lottery, and we raised many funds. But that very night there was a picture of Master at Lake Shrine next to my bed, and when I was sitting on my bed looking into Master's eyes, I had an experience that changed me. It's not that I entered into samadhi or something, but it was just a little drop that I could feel that this service that I had done that day made a difference. So recapitalizing, we are now going towards the ceremony of light. So this talking about calmness and joy and humorism, I think that's the most important thing, to approach our imperfections with forgiveness towards ourselves, accepting ourselves, and then start working on yourselves. We say in the ceremony, while in the past redemption of humanity required suffering and pain, for us now the payment has been exchanged into calm acceptance.